I recently made a video about the jump in strength Obito had from when he was 13 years old and a low Chunin ninja to when he was 14 and fighting against Minato in a deathmatch. Most people really enjoyed that video, but in the comment section, a lot of people seem to think Obito was much older than 14 years old when he fought against Minato, and also much older than Kakashi, like 4 to 5 years older than him. In that video, I go over the estimation of Obito's age when he fought against Minato, but I don't go too much in depth into it because I frankly didn't think it was necessary, but a lot of people have the misconception, and it's understandable. And that's because there's a massive retcon in the Naruto series when it comes to Kakashi's promotion ages. So in this video, I'm gonna go over why Kakashi and Obito have the same age, and why Obito is actually just 14 years old when he fought against Minato. And also go over that retcon, explain it a little bit more in depth, and try to justify it in universe and also out of universe. So the first obvious source you look at for Kakashi and Obito's ages are external sources. And I don't like using external sources, but it's the first thing you have to look at when you're trying to determine something fixed like a character's age. Kakashi and Obito are both listed as 31 years old at the end of Naruto Shippuden, the same age, and they're also listed as 13 years old at the Kakashi Gaiden Arc, the flashback we first see Obito. Same age as Rin, by the way. We also know by external sources that Kakashi's birthday is September 15 and Obito's birthday is February 10. So yeah, technically one of them is older than the other, we just don't know which one, and it's not by much. Like, Obito could have been born in the February of the same year Kakashi was born in September, but we just don't know which one was born first. We don't know who is older than who. But regardless, it's not much of an age gap, and the characters are gonna be roughly the same age throughout the entire series, obviously. But obviously you can say that data books and other external sources are not trustworthy. There are many extremely wrong things on them, which is true. So let me explain why you can come to the conclusion Kakashi and Obito are the same age, even if you have no source of information outside of the manga. The first piece of evidence, and the most obvious one, is that Kakashi and Obito during the Kakashi Gaiden arc have a very similar design when it comes to their age look. They have pretty much the same height, they look young. You can see that Obito's design is very much inspired by Part 1 Naruto's design, and Kakashi's design is somewhat inspired by Sasuke in Part 1. You can see they are clearly way shorter than Minato, who is an adult at that time. And we also know that Kakashi was 13 years old, mentioned in the manga itself when he became a Jonin, and Kakashi becomes a Jonin in the beginning of the Kakashi Gaiden arc. That's what kind of starts the arc off, with Rin and Minato giving gifts to Kakashi for his promotion, and then at the end of the arc, Obito gives his Sharingan as a gift. If Obito was 4 or 5 years older than Kakashi, or even 2 years older than Kakashi at that age, Obito would be much taller and he would look much more mature than he does in the Kakashi Flashback Arc. Kishimoto's intentions with their general age were very clear from the start. They were supposed to be about the same. Thematically speaking, it would make no sense for Obito to be older than Kakashi. They share this rivalry / friendship, which simply wouldn't work if one of them is 4 to 5 years older than the other, and that's the case people are making for Obito, that he is much older than Kakashi. Because if Obito was that much older, then it's much more likely he would have authority over Kakashi, especially because Kakashi is a little kid, he's 13 years old, but so is Obito, so the relationship and what unfolds during the Kanabi Bridge Mission makes sense. So thematically they have to be the same age, just like Naruto and Sasuke have to be about the same age, just like Yahiko and Nagato have to be about the same age, just like Madara and Hashirama have to be about the same age. Obito and Kakashi have a similar relationship to those, and therefore they have to be about the same age. Also in chapter 607, for example, when we see Obito first joining Team Minato with Kakashi and Rin, they all look to be about the same age as well. Obito's design is pretty much the same with a blue clothing. Kakashi's design is a little bit different from his 3rd grade ninja war design in the Kakashi Gaiden arc, but the way he looks, his face, yeah, seems about the same age as Obito. And for none of these things, I am even considering the retcon that happened in the Naruto series. Yes, even if Kakashi graduates the academy at 5 years old and becomes a Chunin at 6, he is still the same age as Obito, as he was established in the Kakashi Gaiden arc, when the retcon hadn't even happened. Now, if you want more evidence that Obito was actually pretty damn young, especially when he fought Minato at 14 years old, you just have to look at what happened when Obito infiltrated the Leaf Village. Now, obviously, you can't really do that in the manga because there's no sound for you to listen to, but in the anime, when Obito infiltrates the village and he sees Minato, the night Naruto was born, the night Minato dies, but from Obito's perspective, we get Obito's inner thoughts. And even though Obito was already using his Madara voice to pretend he was Madara and everything, even fooling Minato himself, his inner thoughts were still in his kid voice.
Minato-sensei,
that happens in the anime, and that also happens in the games. Yes, obviously Obito gets taller within that 1 year that passes between him getting smashed by the rock and him fighting Minato, but he is still 14 years old then, just like Kakashi, and just like Guy actually. We see Kakashi and Guy in the night Naruto was born. Kakashi's design is different from the one he was using during the Third Great Ninja War, for example, he's in the Yambu now, and they're also definitely taller and more mature. However, they are still much shorter than the adults that are rounding the kids up so they don't go to fight the Nine-Tails. And that's another good bit of evidence, isn't it? If Kakashi, Guy, and other people we know are powerful are not fighting the Nine-Tails because they're too young, it means they are not nearly 20 years old. People were saying Obito was anywhere from 16 to 22 when he fought against Minato in the comment section of my video, but if Obito was that old, his inner thoughts wouldn't be in his kid's voice, and his peers, people the same age as Obito like Kakashi, which I explained why Kakashi is the same age as Obito, or even Might Guy, would be fighting to protect the village from the Nine-Tails. They wouldn't be put inside a protective barrier by the Leaf Village adults. So how did I come up that Obito was 14 when he fought against Minato? Well, it's just very simple math. We know Kakashi and Obito were 26 years old at the beginning of Naruto. And yet, it's never literally stated in the manga that Kakashi is 26 in the beginning of part 1. He turns 27 midway through it. But it's one of those things that it seems pretty obvious, because Kakashi looks like a young guy. He even calls himself young during the series, and he was also the same age as Obito. We can calculate how old they were back when Obito attacked Minato, because Naruto was literally born that very night. And Naruto starts the series at 12 years old. And I think pretty much everyone that watches Naruto knows that Naruto is 12 at the beginning of part 1. Nobody's really going to challenge that notion. So we can simply do 26, Obito and Kakashi's age, minus 12, Naruto's age, and get the age they were when Naruto was born, which just so happens to be 14 years old. And we know they were 13 during the Kanabi Bridge Mission. Now we don't know what time of year the Kanabi Bridge Mission took place, so we can't really say for certain how long exactly passed in between the Kanabi Bridge Mission when Obito got smashed by the rock and Obito versus Minato. But we know Minato had to become Hokage in that meantime, Kushina had to get pregnant and have Naruto, so at least 9 months, and it could go up to a year and a half or so, depending on when the Kanabi Bridge took place. Some people will also say that much more time has passed between those two events, because when Obito is in Madara's cave, his hair grows substantially when he is training to get adapted to the half-body of White Zetsu Hashirama cells. And that's true, his hair does grow a lot. And yeah, different people have different hair growth rates, but it does look like Obito passed more than a year in that cave. But that simply doesn't make sense within the timeline. We know Kakashi and Obito were 13 years old at Kanabi Bridge, and we also know that Obito and Kakashi are 26 years old in the beginning of Naruto Part 1, and if Naruto was 12, the night Naruto was born happened 12 years before Naruto Part 1, meaning they had to be 14. So Obito's hair growth can be explained by the additional amount of Hashirama White Zetsu cells he got implanted. They provide a lot of regeneration. Cell growth is essentially a bunch of dead cells, so what's stopping Hashirama cells from making your hair grow more by creating those dead cells that are going to turn into hair? We also see that when Obito sees Kakashi killing Rin with his Raikiri, that both Rin and Kakashi had the exact same design as they had in the Kanabi Bridge Mission in Kakashi Gaiden. They were about the same height, they looked about the same in terms of maturity. It's just that Obito was taller because he was wearing Guru Zetsu around him. And by the way, no, Obito did not wear Guru Zetsu when he fought against Minato. That's very evident. When Obito fought against Minato, you can see his hair. When Obito has Guru Zetsu around him, the spiral face takes over his head completely and Obito gets like this White Zetsu helmet that covers his hair. He was just wearing a mask against Minato. So Obito probably spent about 3 to 6 months training in Madara escape to get adapted to the White Zetsu body. But he couldn't have stayed much more than that because he still had to go out, manipulate Nagato, do all those things he had to do there, and fight Minato within at most a year and a half. And the only way you can try and say that Obito was actually older when he fought Minato is by changing Kakashi's and Obito's ages in the beginning of part 1. Like, if you say Kakashi and Obito were 28 in the beginning of part 1, then Obito would be 16, and so would Kakashi. And I mean, I guess you could say the Kakashi design we see on the night Naruto was born could have been a 16-year-old, but it's much more interesting for Kakashi's character and also Obito's character if they are young when those things happen to them. Especially because when Kakashi meets his dad in Limbo after Pain kills him, Sakumo remarks that he came to him pretty fast, that he didn't expect Kakashi to die so young. So even in Shippuden, Kakashi was treated as young. Like, yeah, people don't realize this, but Naruto characters, they do things when they're pretty damn young. Itachi massacred the Uchiha clan when he was 13, for example, and Minato died at 24. So Obito fighting against Minato when he's 14 kinda makes sense. I mean, I know my video is titled Why Obito's Strength Doesn't Make Sense, but this is a provocative title. Go watch that video to understand why Obito got so much more powerful in a year and a half. Now, you have to note that none of the things I've explained so far have anything to do with the retcon that happened in the Naruto series, because Kakashi and Obito's ages are independent from the retcon. It doesn't matter if you apply the retcon to your analysis or not, Obito and Kakashi are still gonna be the same age for the reasons I've explained so far. But there is a massive retcon that happens, especially with Kakashi's promotion ages. Because yeah, Kakashi is said to have graduated the Ninja Academy at 5 years old and become a Chunin at 6. Now, this is a little bit ludicrous to me. Yes, there's a lot of young characters doing impressive things in Naruto, just like I said before, Itachi massacring the Uchiha clan when he's 13, but 5-year-olds are eating dirt. It's a different thing entirely. And Kakashi was capable enough at 5 to be a ninja, and at 6 to advance to the Chunin rank. That's just kind of insane. It is listed in external sources, and we have one line that somewhat confirms that in the Naruto series. And I'm saying somewhat because there's a retcon later. And most people miss that line because it's somewhat of a throwaway line, and it's when Iruka is chastising Kakashi for having recommended Team 7 for the Chunin exams. Iruka says, "Oh, it's too dangerous, Kakashi. They're too inexperienced and young. You shouldn't send them to the Chunin exams." And Kakashi says, "I was 6 years younger than Naruto when I was promoted to Chunin." And because we know Naruto is 12 years old in Naruto Part 1, that means Kakashi would have become a Chunin when he was 6. Even if that happens, that does not change the fact that Kakashi and Obito are the same age. It just means that Kakashi became a ninja before Obito and he became a Chunin before Obito as well. Wait, but how did Kakashi, Obito, and Rin got put in the same team? We know the mission that happens in the Kanabi Bridge Arc, and in that team, both Rin and Obito were already Chunins, and Kakashi was a Jonin just like Minato. So in theory, they didn't even have to be an initial academy team like Team 7, for example. They could be just a team that regularly goes on missions with Minato as the captain. Or simply that Rin and Obito were assigned to Kakashi's team with Minato when they graduated the academy because the Leaf Village was short-staffed because of the Third Great Ninja War. But that does not change the fact that they were the same age. In Chapter 16, we see the initial page of the chapter, which is not related to the story in the manga, but it's canon, it's drawn by Kishimoto, and it's Kakashi on his bed, and we see two pictures on the bed counter. We see Team 7's picture with Kakashi as an adult, and also Team Minato's with Minato, Kakashi, Obito, and Rin. And we see Obito and Kakashi there on that picture, and they look pretty much the same age with the Leaf Village headband and everything. Exactly how they look in the Kakashi Gaiden arc, the same age. Now this Kakashi line when he says he was 6 years younger than Naruto when he became a Chunin happens in chapter 35 of the Naruto series, in the very beginning. And we know that a lot of things that were established in the beginning of the Naruto series, especially in the first and second arcs, were retconned later, especially at the end of Naruto Shippuden. This is one of them. And there isn't an easier way to see what a retcon is than this one. It's literally retroactively changing what the story had established before. Because yeah, I think Kishimoto actually intended for Kakashi to be 6 years old when he became a Chunin when he wrote that line in chapter 35. However, for his story to work the way he wanted it to work later on, he completely changed that. And that's because in chapter 599, the chapter when Obito gets unmasked. We see a pretty lengthy flashback of things that happened in Obito's life when he was in the Leaf Village. It's a really cool chapter. Not a lot of dialogue, but that makes the chapter even more impactful. But in this chapter, we get several retcons, actually. The chapter starts with Obito running late for his graduation ceremony in the academy. When he arrives to the ceremony had already ended, and he sees his peers leaving it. And that's the first retcon, because we can't say for certain what Obito's age was here when he was running late for the ceremony, but it looks to be about 9 to 10, maybe 11 years old. And so do all the other characters that were not late for the ceremony. And that's the thing, Kishimoto kinda said, screw it, I'm just gonna make every single character the same age here, because they're all about the same height, and honestly, they seem to look exactly the same in terms of how old they are and their designs. Because when Obito arrives late, we see this 2-page spread of several characters we know of having just graduated the academy. And those characters are listed as having different ages in many cases. Like, yeah, if one character here and there is like 1 or 2 years older or younger than another character on this 2-page spread right here, that'll be fine. You can say some characters grow later than others and everything, but there are some major differences in a few of the characters. So let me tell you the characters that are in this 2-page spread, and let me tell you their ages in the beginning of Naruto Part 1. Well, let's start off with Obito. He is 26 in the beginning of Naruto Part 1. Then we have Ebisu. He's 28 in the beginning of Naruto Part 1. Kakashi, 26. Might Guy, 26. Aoba, 30. Raido, 31. Asuma, 27, Kurenai, 27, Genma, 29, and Hayate, 23. Hayate is the weirdest one, because he is much younger than the rest. But also, you have Raido, for example, who is 31 at the beginning of Naruto Part 1. So, the age difference between Raido and Hayate should be 8 years. And an 8-year-old difference for somebody that age is just massive. Like, if Hayate is supposed to be 11 years old here when he graduates the academy, that means Raido should be 19. And Raido is obviously not 19 here. They look about the same age, every single character. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 years of difference, but that's the max. So when he was making this flashback and this 2-page spread, Kishimoto probably didn't care about the actual character ages at all. He was just like, yeah, let me just shove as many characters as I remember here. Let's see their young designs and everything. That's gonna be cool, right? So you could say that's a retcon. Every single character in this 2-page spread are about the same age, which is not that big of a deal. I mean, Hayate is supposed to be 23 when he dies, but if he's 26 like Kakashi in Part 1, that doesn't change anything. But the second retcon that's established with this single 2-page spread here of the graduation ceremony is that Kakashi and Obito and pretty much everybody else there graduated at the same time. And that's when people are gonna say, no, that's exactly why Obito is 4 to 5 years older than Kakashi, because Kakashi was 5 when he graduated and Obito is like not that young. But no, as I've established before, Obito and Kakashi are the same age. Even in this very scene here, their designs look to be about the same age, so obviously no. If Obito was 4 to 5 years older than Kakashi in this scene, he would look much more mature and he would be much taller. So that's the first retcon. Kakashi does not become a genin at 5 years old, he becomes a genin older, and he graduates the academy the same time as many of his peers, Obito included. Because Obito does graduate. He's late for the ceremony, but he graduates. Rin gives him the shinobi certificate. And I know some people are gonna say that, oh no, Kakashi was just watching the ceremony with he was already a ninja. There's nothing saying he was actually graduated at that time. He could have been a shinobi before. And yeah, technically there isn't anything saying that, but the scene is showing us that all those people had just graduated. If you read that scene and you don't come to that conclusion, I think you have to start learning how to read a little bit better. With all the kids leaving the academy and the banner saying graduation ceremony being put down, obviously they were all at the ceremony for the graduation of themselves. And even if you want to argue that, no, Kakashi was a ninja before, he was just in the ceremony with his friends, there's another retcon that happens in the very same chapter, and it's when Kakashi becomes a Chunin. Because according to Kakashi himself, in chapter 35, he became a Chunin 6 years younger than Naruto. And we actually see Kakashi becoming a Chunin in this flashback. He's in Obito's team, obviously, for the Chunin exams. They go through the team fights where they fight against Guy's team, and Obito gets kicked by Guy and everything, and then in the individual fights, Obito loses to Guy again, and then Kakashi beats Guy. We then see a very clear panel that shows us that Kakashi becomes a Chunin. We see Kakashi holding the Chunin certificate and the Chunin vest of the Leaf Village. And that Kakashi is obviously not 6 years old. He doesn't have the same design as he had in the Kanabi Bridge Mission, however, his design looks like he is 12-ish. He's about the same height as Naruto and Sasuke in part 1 of Naruto. He is about the same height as Obito as well during that flashback. And we also see that Obito becomes a Chunin about 6 months after Kakashi, because when Kakashi becomes a Chunin and Obito fails, there are very clear panels indicating the passage of time. Like, this is probably the best panels in the Naruto series that indicate passage of time, because Naruto doesn't tend to do that very often, but in here it does. We see the seasons changing to winter with the snow and to spring with the sakura petals. 2 seasons pass with Obito training harder, and then he becomes a Chunin, meaning that he becomes a Chunin about 6 months after Kakashi, which also makes sense because we know there are 2 Chunin exams every year, so a time interval of 6 months between Chunin exams makes complete sense. Kakashi becomes a Chunin in 1 Chunin exams, and then 6 months after that, Obito becomes a Chunin, and we clearly see Obito becoming a Chunin because he's also holding the Chunin certificate and the Chunin vest and being all happy. Yeah, there's no dialogue. The manga is not spelling out, hey guys, Kakashi became a Chunin here, but the images are very clear, right? And we also see that it's very soon after Obito becomes a Chunin that Kakashi becomes a Jonin, because Obito is like waiting for Rin with flowers, about to confess to her, when Rin arrives and tells Obito, oh, let's get a gift for Kakashi's Jonin promotion. And we can also see that scene is during the spring as well, because of the sakura petals floating around, the pink petals of the sakura tree. And shortly after that, Team Minato goes to the Kanabi Mission, which is when Rin and Minato give Kakashi the gifts for him becoming a Jonin. And as I've already established, they were 13 years old during that mission, which means Kakashi became a Chunin probably about 6 months before he became a Jonin. But what about his line of him becoming a Chunin when he was 6 years younger than Naruto? Well, that's the line that was retconned. And that was a line. What we saw with Obito's flashback was literally the things unfolding, which holds much more weight, narratively speaking, than a single throwaway line. Out of universe, this was obviously done to facilitate Kishimoto's writing in the flashback, because that's how he wanted to write the characters. He wanted to show the parallels of Kakashi and Obito becoming a Chunin, Obito watching Kakashi become a Chunin, feeling disappointed when he is not promoted, and then when he becomes a Chunin and feels all happy about it, Kakashi becomes a Jonin and surpasses him again, which is also a pretty massive dampener to him. And let's be real here, it's very likely Kishimoto didn't even remember about the line in chapter 35 when he was writing chapter 599. It had been over 500 chapters, and that line's very small. And even if he remembered that line, he'd just be like, ah, screw it, I'm gonna do this the way I want to do it, so whatever. In universe, there are a few ways to justify what's unfolding here. Now, you can go the route of making Obito be 4 to 5 years older than Kakashi, even though they look exactly the same age, and they are cited to be the same age, and thematically it makes absolute sense for them to be the same age. Or you could say Kakashi was watching his friends becoming Genins in the graduation ceremony, and that he was already a ninja at that point, and that he was in the Chunin exams already being a Chunin and holding the Chunin certificate with a brand new Chunin vest when he was already a Chunin for passing the Chunin exams as a Chunin, which makes absolutely no sense as well. No, the easiest way to justify this in universe is that Kakashi was simply trolling Iruka, that his statement about him being 6 years younger than Naruto when he became a Chunin was not true. And no, I don't think that was Kishimoto's original intention with the line, but retroactively speaking, this is the best way to make the story make sense with itself. After all, Iruka was actually being really freaking annoying to Kakashi when he recommended his team to the Chunin exams. Like, reread that chapter. Iruka, like, you just don't like the guy when he's talking to Kakashi that way. And you can also see by Kakashi's face that he was quite annoyed and tired of Iruka's antics there. So you can just say Kakashi was like, bro, I was 6 years younger than Naruto, give me a break, when that wasn't the case. But Iruka wouldn't know that, because why would Iruka know somebody's promotion age to the Chunin rank and somebody that's older than him and that he wasn't a peer of back in the day? And because Kakashi is this legendary genius shinobi, Iruka just believed him, thinking that, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense, Kakashi being a Chunin at 6 years old. old, I don't know. But even still, the retcon does not change the fact that Kakashi and Obito are supposed to be, and were always supposed to be, the same age. Now, if you want to know how Obito got that much stronger in about a year, watch the video on your screen right now. Subscribe if you haven't, ring notifications, please do those things. Also, like the video if you enjoyed it. Those things take 2 seconds, and they really help me out. Thank you so much for watching.